Hello everyone, what is up and welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be the ultimate comparison between the Samsung Galaxy S21 and the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. Yep, that's right. We're going to be comparing the base model S21 and the high-end S22 Ultra. I guess this is going to be a fun comparison. And before we get started into the video, I hope all of you would have liked my 1-week review on the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra that just dropped last week. So I hope all of you would have liked it. Without further ado, let's get started into the video. Okay, so here are both the phones. Here's the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra and here's the Samsung Galaxy S21. So both the phones are here, and as you can see by this indicator, both the phones are fully charged. So we don't want to compromise on any battery charging, or we don't want to just run out of battery while halfway doing the comparison. So I've charged them to full. Now let's unplug both the phones at the same time. With both the phones unplugged, now let's take a look at the physical features like we always do. So the S21 weighs 169 grams and the S22 Ultra weighs in at 228 grams. That is definitely quite a difference, but I can't really feel the weight, as in the weight difference. Of course I feel like the S22 Ultra is heavier, which it definitely is, but I think it's due to its more wider form factor that the weight is actually evenly separated, I think. But that's definitely my speculations. As we can see here, the S21 has 2 microphone holes here, but the S22 Ultra has only 1 microphone hole. Yeah, I hope you can see it here. And also, if we turn both the phones around, we could clearly see that the flashlight is next to the camera module. So the camera module is here and the flashlight is next to it on the S21. But on the S22 Ultra, the flashlight is in the middle of the laser autofocus and the camera. So that's a small difference. And other than that, the Samsung font on both the phones are the same. I don't think it's really that visible on camera. Let me bring it closer. And yep, here's it. So both the fonts are the same. So there's no difference in that. And at the bottom, there's the IMEI. And the most visible difference is the camera bump. So on the S21, there's a camera bump. But on the S22 Ultra, there isn't a camera bump. The camera bump is here because it's covering all the 3 cameras, but here there's no camera bump. These are just individual cameras just cut out on the phone. So as we can see here from the sides, we could clearly see that the Samsung Galaxy S21 is actually thicker than the S22 Ultra, but that is not the case in the technical specifications sheet. The S21 is actually a millimeter thinner than the S22 Ultra at 7.9 mm, and the S22 Ultra is actually 8.9 millimeters. That is definitely a minor difference, but obviously we can't see it. And if we take a look at the bottom, we could clearly see that on the S21, the SIM card tray is on the left, and on the S22 Ultra, the SIM card tray is on the right side. That is a minor difference, and that might also be because of the S Pen sitting at the spot of the SIM card tray. We could also see that that's the case with the speakers. The speakers have been moved from the right side to the left side, and all these changes must have been made to accommodate space for the S Pen here. And talking about the S Pen, that is what that brings us to the next point. The S21 does not have a S Pen, but the S22 Ultra does have a S Pen. And we can also see that the S22 is having a flat top and bottom, but the S21 is actually having a curved top and curved bottom. And the whole phone overall is just curved, but this phone is more like a book. Its top and bottom are flat and the sides are rounded. Now with all of that done, let's move back to the camera. The S21 has 3 cameras and the S22 Ultra has 4 cameras. This camera here is a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera with f2.2 aperture. This is a 12 megapixel wide with f1.8 aperture, and it also has optical image stabilization. This is a 64 megapixel telephoto camera with f2.0 aperture and optical image stabilization. Here's the flash, of course. And now onto the S22 Ultra. This camera is the 12 megapixel ultra wide camera with f2.2 aperture. The second camera is a 108 megapixel telephoto camera with f4.9 aperture. The third camera is a 10 megapixel telephoto with a f4.9 aperture. This laser here is mainly for autofocus and to have better night shots. This is a 10 megapixel telephoto with f2.4 aperture. So this is a 10 megapixel with f4.9, and this is a 10 megapixel telephoto with f2.0 aperture. And the camera on the S22 Ultra also has 3x and 10x dual optical zoom, and it also has super resolution zoom up to 100x. The front facing camera is a 40 megapixel camera. And now onto the battery. We can clearly see from the size of both the phones that the S21 has a smaller battery than the S22 Ultra. So the S21 has a 4000 mAh battery, and the S22 Ultra has a beefy 5000 mAh battery, Well, it's just a 1000 milliamp hour difference, but that really makes a lot of difference in real world testings. Now we're onto the screen size. The S21 here has a 6.2 inch screen with 1080 by 240 pixels. The S22 Ultra here has a 6.8 inch screen with 1440 by 3088 pixels. The S21 has 8 GB of physical memory and it has 4 GB of swap, so basically virtual memory. And the S22 Ultra has 12 GB of physical memory and it has 4 GB of swap memory. So the RAM plus is basically swap memory. It's just a small minor wording difference and nothing much. Now let's start off with the first test, which is the Geekbench. Of course, I know that the Geekbench is actually not accurate now due to Samsung limiting their GPU and CPU speeds in real life and actually opening them up during benchmarks. I know that well, but we're just gonna do Geekbench just to get a rough gauge on the overall difference. So this is just a rough gauge. I know that this is really a wild guess because those are totally off, but we just do it just for reference sake. Here I have Geekbench opened up on both the phones. First we are going to run the CPU and next we are going to run the compute. Now I'm going to click run CPU benchmark on both the phones at the same time. Okay, done. Now let's wait for the phones to finish and we'll talk about it. Just a quick update on the Geekbench. We can clearly see that the S22 Ultra is having a clear lead here at 37% and the S21 is still at 18%. That's a really huge difference on just running the benchmarks, no other testings. So this is gonna be fun. Let's wait. Okay, so now the Galaxy S22 Ultra is done with the Geekbench, but the S21 is still running at 86%. Let's wait for it to finish before we take a look at both the results. Both the phones have completed their Geekbench test, and here we have our results. The S21 scored a 496 for single core, and the S22 Ultra scored a 1216 for single core. The S21 scored a 1724 for multi-core, and the S22 Ultra scored 3299 for multi-core. That's a really huge difference. Definitely this is how usually it is because this is actually an entry-level phone and this is a top-of-the-line bleeding edge tech. So we usually have those difference, and of course, like I said before, this is definitely overclocked. Isn't actually overclocked, but if we are going to bring this number to real-world testings, that definitely won't be the case. So yeah, that's just something to be taken note of, which is really important actually. And now with Geekbench done on both the phones, ouch, I just see the phones, yeah, but whatever. And now with Geekbench done on both the phones, it's time to test the 5G. So both the phones are 5G. So this is the S21 5G and this is the S22 Ultra 5G. So we're going to test 5G speeds on both the phones. I'm sorry about this, but I can't do the speed test on both the phones at the same time because I only have one SIM card and that has to be on one phone at a time. So really sorry about that. But now we're going to start with the speed test on the S22 Ultra first. And then we'll go on to the S21. So I'm going to click go and there we go. We are now done with the speed test on the S22 Ultra. And let's complete the test on the S21 also. And we shall take a look at the results together. So I'm going to click go and there we go. The results on both the phone are out now. So let's take a look at them. The S21 scored 70.9 megabytes for downloads and 3.21 megabytes for upload, whereas the S22 Ultra scored 89.5 megabytes for downloads and 4.01 megabytes for upload. Some of you might be wondering why the 5G speeds is quite slow, and that's because that's how the speed is here. I don't really have an answer for that. That's how 5G speeds are here in Singapore. Well, that's really a bummer. And like I've said in my 1 week review video, I think I've said it in my 1 week review video, I'm not really sure, but YouTube videos sometimes lag on 5G here. Well, that's the sad reality. Now we are done with 5G speeds. Just off it now. Yep, we are done with the 5G testing. So it's time to test the speakers. Okay, so let's play some music and test this. So here I have some NCS ready to be played for the speaker test. So we're going to play them and test and see which speaker is louder. So firstly, let's play on the older phone, the S21. Okay, and we are done with the test, and this is a really surprising result. So I guess it was pretty obvious that the S21 beat the S22 Ultra in the speaker test. The S21 was way louder and it's just more louder than the S22 Ultra. The S22 Ultra sounds softer. It has the more of the blunt feeling rather than the sharp beating effects. So I feel like all the beats were softened on the S22 Ultra, whereas they were quite sharp and clear on the S21. So I'm giving the speaker test to the S21. Like I said before, speakers are really disappointing on the S22 Ultras. Now with the speaker test done, it's time to do the second test. So after the speaker, it's definitely the screen. So now let's play some HDR videos and just test both the screens. Okay, here I have some HDR video. I have not played them yet. So here we go. Both the phones are now having the same brightness. So we're not gonna give any phone the advantage of having a brighter display or dimmer display. Both the phones are set to the same brightness. So now let's get the video playing. Both the phones have started playing HDR videos. So now let's just observe them. Okay, both the phones are really good. The display is having no issues. So if you can see, I scaled the video to match the display. Both the displays have no problems. I can't complain anything about the displays. The displays are really good. The displays pretty much have no difference in them. I can't really find any difference in the displays. There isn't any blooming issue or anything. When I click here, there's a slight blooming around the pause and play button. That is pretty obvious. So other than that, these displays have no issues at all. Both the displays are really good. I don't really know why, but in some situations the S21's display are better. So I feel like they are better than the S22 Ultra's display. I don't really know why, but I could see that the water on the right side here is slightly having a higher contrast than the water here on the S21. So I feel like the S22 Ultra is having a slightly, just a very minor advantage in the contrast. So it's having a slightly higher contrast in the display, and it's also pretty clear that the rocks here are brighter than the rocks here. So that's a slight difference that I noticed. Now we are done with the screen test and speaker test. Now it's time to test the biometrics. We're going to test the ultrasonic fingerprint and also the Face ID. So firstly, let's start off with the fingerprint. I'm going to put my finger at the same time and let's see which opens first. Let's go. Wow, the S21 did it first. Let's turn it off and turn it back on. Whoa, the S21 was first to unlock the phone. This is actually really surprising. The S21 keeps being better in all the tests except for the benchmarks obviously. Now let's try out Face ID. Let's see which unlocks Face ID first. So I'm gonna turn this phone on at the same time. Okay, face doesn't match, so I'm gonna swipe it up. Okay, that definitely was a clear win. The S21 unlocked it in the second try, but the S22 Ultra took the third try, and it also required me to put the phone straight up in order for the Face ID to work. So that's a clear win on the S21 again. Okay, now we are done with that. It's time to test the graphics. So all this while the screen test and all the basic stuff, the S21 was winning. But now it's more onto the graphics and more onto the processors. So you're gonna see how this phone holds up. So now we have 3D Mark open here. So now it's time to run the test. Let's click run and let's turn it. It's starting to run and there we go. Okay, so the S22 Ultra started first and the S21 is still loading. There we go. This test has started on the S21. So now let's wait for both the phones to finish and we'll get back.
2 hours later.
This test is finally done after 30 minutes. The test is done on the S22 Ultra and all of you might be wondering why it's not done on the S21, and that is because the test crashed halfway. Yeah, that's right, the test crashed and I actually got a warning message saying that the phone does not have enough RAM to complete this test. So it ran out of physical RAM. I'm not sure if it's using any virtual RAM, because if it's using virtual RAM it should run, but I'm not really sure about that. But yeah, the test crashed on the S21. The S21 couldn't hold up the graphics, but the S22 definitely did, and it took around half an hour to complete. Now let's take a look at the scores. Oof, okay. The phone is really hot. It's too hot. The table itself got hot. So this is the best time to gauge the chamber cooling system. Once I took it out from the table, the temperature rapidly started decreasing and now it's not even hot anymore. It's just slightly warm. There was a huge dip here, but other than that it's fine, I guess. Frame rates were consistently at 18 frames per second. That's very bad, but it dropped down till 3 frames per second. And what do we have here? Battery. Oof, the battery went from 89 to 82 in this half an hour, and the temperature went from 35 to 43 degrees Celsius. Whoa. And trust me, I'm saying it once again, the chamber cooling system is really great. The temperature is rapidly decreasing, and the lowest frame rate was 4 frames per second, the highest was 18 frames per second. That isn't really ideal for gaming. And here we can see the graph. The temperature of the battery just kept increasing, but the frame rates were consistently around. The huge dip was at 4, but other than that, it's fine. And yep, that's the graphics test on both the Samsung Galaxy S21 and the S22 Ultra. And that is the end of the testing. The graphics test was definitely a disaster because it crashed midway in the S21. I actually wanted to show all of you the support message which showed up on the benchmark, but it was gone before the test on the S22 Ultra was done. So what the message or notification read is that it said that the device has run out of RAM to run the test. There are definitely 8 GB of RAM, not enough. And if I'm not wrong, I'm guessing that the S21 does not have virtual memory because it doesn't show up that there's virtual memory below like the S22 Ultra does. I'm not really sure about that. But looking at the test, I think that the S21 just relies on physical memory and not virtual. And of course, that test took around 30 minutes to complete. So yeah, it took pretty long. It took pretty long to complete. We have done a numerous number of tests. Obviously, I didn't play any real life gamings here because the 3D Mark test was actually good enough. So on the final verdict, should you buy the S22 Ultra? So firstly, if you want to buy the S22 Ultra, we're going to look at the use case. The S21 is meant mainly for casual users who play light gaming and they are not into much gaming, and the tasks that they do on their phone do not require that much of a CPU or GPU power. For them, the S21 is a great option. And also if they don't need a huge battery, or if they don't need a bleeding edge camera or a top of the line specs, or some people who are just budget friendly, and those people who actually want to get the S series but they don't want to get the bleeding edge tech because that might not be useful for them. So these are just for casual users. And the S22 Ultra is the exact opposite. It's meant for high-end gaming, especially with the cooling chamber, which dissipates heat quickly. So it's been around 2 minutes since the test ended, I think, and the phone is now back to its normal temperature. So that was really good. You're having the S21 now, and should you upgrade to the S22 Ultra here? So my answer would be, it depends on your use case. Like I said, the S21 is meant for light users. And if you happen to be a light user and you don't really need much of a graphics power, or just don't really need that much of a huge amount of RAM, like 12 GB of RAM, or you don't really use your camera much, then the S22 Ultra is definitely out of your choice. It's just a waste of money if you're gonna get this phone. I think if you want, you might get the S22 or the S22 Plus, but I have personally not tested them out, so I can't really give a verdict on that. But if you're from the S21 and if you want to upgrade to the S22 Ultra, then you might have to be a gamer, or you have to be someone who uses graphics power a lot. And also we have to take the price into consideration. I just checked and the S21 is now standing at around $800 for a 1 or 2 months old used one, which is definitely considered brand new. And for the brand new one, that's around $1,000. So let's say the best S21 that you can get is around $800. The S22 Ultra, which you can only get new, no one is selling secondhand now because obviously it's less than a month old. The S22 Ultra will cost you around $1,800 to $1,900. We are looking at around $1,000 difference. So if you ask me, is this phone worth for $1,000 extra if you're a normal user? If you're a normal user, then this $1,000 is definitely wasted because you're not going to use it. And if you're someone like me who plays a lot of handphone games and usually use all the bleeding edge technology like the cameras and just the overall phone, then you're someone who should just go for the S22 Ultra. And you're definitely someone who should ditch your S21 and go for the S22 Ultra. And yep, this is the comparison for the Samsung Galaxy S21 and the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. Well, I feel and I know that I have not really been up to expectations of this video, like just a proper comparison, because this is my first time doing it and I'm still learning it. So just forgive me on that. I'll definitely improve my videos in the upcoming days. So I'm just trying out new content with these new devices. So I just got all these new devices, so I'm just trying out new pieces of content. So I'm really sorry if there's any flaw here. I'll definitely try to improve them. And if you like this video or if you like my content, do remember to click the like button and do remember to subscribe to this channel. That would be really helpful. That would really motivate me to do more content for all of you to watch. With that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch all of you in the next one. Bye bye.